Guys. Right, so is a holiday edition of Good Morning Africa live on Pan-African Television. This is the newspaper review segment. Today it's a holiday, so we're going to make sure that we treat as many topics as possible. I'm excited to come your way with the morning show, but also let me extend a heartfelt gratitude to everybody who was able to attend the final burial rites for our brother and friend Dada Seidu in Nalerugu Gambaga constituency. Yesterday, I think a lot of people made their way there, and we're excited about that. Thank you very much for going. This morning, we're discussing a few issues. Aftermath of ministerial vetting and matters arising, and Danso is back, but Gridco thinks otherwise. And also, 2 teenagers snapped for murdering a colleague, and the current state of our economy. Mr. Justice Seneku is here. Good morning to you, sir. And Biaweri Salisu is also here. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Right. So the WhatsApp number is activated. I presume it's on your screens now. If it's not, it will be on your screens shortly. We are also streaming live on our Facebook page, which is Pan-African Television. We are on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we are on all other media platforms. So you can connect with us there, share with us what your thoughts are, and we'll read your messages here for you. Now, let me quickly start with you, Biaweribe. Aftermath of ministerial vetting and matters arising, particularly in your party.
Thank you for an opportunity to speak on this topic. I can say without any iota of doubt that the grassroots of the party are hugely disappointed in our leadership in Parliament. They are disappointed in our leadership in Parliament not because they don't trust them, but because they never expected that their emotions, their feelings, and their thoughts will be so hurt to this level. Unfortunately, the worst has happened. You know the reason? Never in the history of Ghana has any opposing political party been given such an advantage like the NDC has had in Parliament. Never. For the first time, through the gallant effort of our MPs and by the sheer numbers that we had equal to the MPP, we were able to get a Speaker of Parliament. And that was seen as a tactical victory for NDC. We're all hailing our MPs in Parliament by virtue of the fact that they stayed resolute and fought for the defense of democracy and ensuring that the ballot on the day was protected. Remember the disgrace of the Chiwin MP, Carlos Ayonkora, and the stealing that he did. Remember the gallant efforts of our MPs in making sure that they protect the ballot throughout. And it made the Ghanaian to have the confidence that for the first time in the history of Ghana, whether you are an NDC member or you are a floating voter or you belong to any other political party, that you can trust the minority or the equal number of the opposite side to be able to stand in and defend whatever you believe and which was right. Remember that the vetting process of the MPs has been telecast live. And telecasting live, what is the intent? The intent is to carry the people of Ghana along with you and to be able to see and let the people know that this is the quality of leadership which is coming to lead. And the framers of the 1992 Constitution did not just make it a mistake by subjecting major appointments of the president to parliamentary vetting. Whosoever tells you that the vetting process is a mere formality, then they don't understand the historical development of that clause in the Constitution of Ghana. It is not just a mere formality. it is meant to be a check on the executive. It is meant to be a check on the resources of Ghana, which will be entrusted into the hands of people who have absolute control of certain major sectors of the country, to the extent that by the laws of Ghana, even the president cannot control some sector ministers unless otherwise they decide, or he decides to fire them. Because nothing stops you as the minister to tell your president that whatever you want me to do is not something that is supported by law. I either resign or you fire me. Otherwise, it is not good. So it means that the people in that sector will be held to account for whatever they have done. Can you imagine the feeling of the ordinary voter and the ordinary Ghanaian who, through a national security apparatus, a also West wagon, hoodlums who were recruited into a non-existent force called National Security Operatives, went and shot and maimed people. As we speak today, my brother is maimed as a result of this Ayawaso West wagon situation. As we speak today, many more are yet to recover from the effect of the Ayawaso West wagon. What was it? This was an operation that was orchestrated by the presidency and handed over to the National Security Minister, who oversaw the operations of that, to the extent that the IGP was not aware of the said operations which were conducted. And yet a commission was set. The findings of that commission has rendered nothing, useless. This is the feeling of the person who is on the street and who is an ordinary supporter of the party. Can the person get any vengeance whatsoever? The person had that vengeance by virtue of the fact that he voted for a president who is not whom they expected to be the president now, and the person had that kind of way of paying back by voting for a certain number of MPs to represent him in parliament, and entrusting that the MPs will have his own feeling and be able to fight for him and speak for him when the opportunity is presented. Can the said minister who oversaw the said operations be reappointed not to any other position but to the same position? And you think that the passage of such a minister, the ordinary voter will be happy? Not at all. You can see more or less, to me, the stage management of a so-called secessionist group of people from the Volta region. Why was it that indeed some months to elections we had stories of people who were trying to break away from the Volta region, and when they are arrested, it is one of the heaviest offenses in the law books of Ghana, and when such people are arrested, the state prosecuting unit decide to free them after trying to blindfold us in doing one or two charade of so-called interested distance. This is what they have done. To extend that indeed there was a clash, that some operatives of national security agencies were not being given the opportunity to operate as they wanted to. This can be nothing but a national security operative which was masqueraded as a secessionist group to achieve a political score. Can you imagine that they said that by virtue of the fact that we had COVID, Master, the numbers of COVID today is higher than any time in our history, but yet they deploy people to the so-called border towns to threaten people, and they were going into people's houses telling them not to come. Can you imagine that the same operative, by virtue of the fact that they asked you a question and you could not possibly speak fluent English, it meant that you are not a Ghanaian, and a DCE could make all sorts of unprinted and unguarded statements, and such a DCE is actually the DSEC chairperson. Can you imagine the pain of the ordinary person who struggled to ride a motorbike across the country to ensure that they brought Ghanaians who were denied by our national security operatives and our national security agencies to come in and register and to vote for a certain representation in a government, and the representatives of the said political party will be in parliament, and to allow somebody who called himself a national security minister to pass. This is part of it. The very killing of the people on the ground. 8 people lost their lives. Majority of those who lost their lives did not come from political party fighting. No, it came from the shooting, deliberate shooting and killing by national security operatives. But yet, there was a minister who has not taken absolute responsibility for that. There's a minister of defense who did not take responsibility for that. There's a minister of interior who did not take responsibility for that. And yet, the said people have been appointed again to the same positions. And what we can do is to say that they should go ahead and still do whatever they know best. This is an unfortunate development to the ordinary voter. Can you imagine that majority of businesses, for the first time, you saw a president who is happy that several financial institutions, over 500 of them, and thousands of people have been killed. Indigenous businesses, indigenous banks have been killed, only for us to be hailing an apprenticeship brewing company that we should thank you for bringing out an apprenticeship brewing company when you have killed many others. And all of us know, and we've been informed, that all the financial malfeasance that is happening within the financial sector is orchestrated by our finance minister. You are aware that we're the people at the forefront saying that the government is doing family and friends, and we've accused Ken Ofurata of planting his subordinates and surrogates in almost all the financial institutions or any place which is concerning money. He couldn't deny it when he was put to the test. He relied on the fact that, look, if they are competent, and so what? Masa, those institutions which mean business and which really go by their ways. Look, Masa, you can be the best qualified person, KOD. If you are appointed to some institution, by virtue of the fact that you are working in that institution, your wife, who might be the most qualified of all, is exempt from going into those areas. Why? Because they value what is meant by conflict of interest. They value what indeed corruption can lead to. They value the fact that some of these things, there are subtle ways that you cannot instill discipline and you cannot hold people to stand on when they are cronies, affiliates, assigns, and indeed inner circles people within these institutions. But yet, such a figure comes to us, and we are happy to approve the said people by consensus. For the first time, you have the National Executive Committee of a political party, the NDC, to issue a statement in support of our parliamentary caucus, saying that we stand by them and they should make sure that they don't approve any person who has had some issues that we are not comfortable with. Only for our MPs to look into the face of our National Executive Committee and decide to do the opposite. For the first time, that if there was a national rallying call that somebody should not be passed as a minister, then that was in the person of Howard Kumson. But yet, we think that such a person should go. And what I'm not happy is by virtue of the rationalization that we are giving, that if indeed somebody has been bad and he has destroyed the country by virtue of his actions in the past, we should give him the free will to go and do the damage the more. That is not good enough for us as a party willing to come, because when the damage is worse, it will take us another generation to be able to bring it back. So the best way is to make sure that we cut the hemorrhage which is happening. But yet, this is what the ordinary Ghanaian is feeling. I understand that in leadership, it is not everything that you can put out to the general public. But when there is a rallying call by the ordinary persons, be sure that you don't do the reverse, and for them to lose that confidence. I can see that the MPP has had some way of bad strategy or good strategy to outsmart the excellent strategy we executed from the beginning. Right away from the beginning of the vetting, you could see the MPP people push some information out there that our parliamentary leadership is possibly going to be bribed, or they will get their way through. I know that all our members of the appointments committee and parliament are men of integrity and substance, especially as NDC is concerned. But when that negative propaganda is pushed out there, and the actions subsequent to that negative propaganda is not proven otherwise, then it deepens the suspicion, and that is even causing that kind of rift that you are seeing, as if our members of parliament are against the ordinary voter. This is what we are seeing. Then you see that their propaganda machine is working to an extent that the very day they are approving Kenofolata, that is the very day they have released a certain statement or making emphasis to the fact that indeed the general secretary of the party has been given an appointment into the board of parliament, conscious of the fact that this decision was taken long before that. This was meant for a propaganda purpose and to hit our heads against each other. When you see that indeed there is that kind of break off by some members of parliament to make certain statements, this is telling you that things are not that rosy within our leadership. This is something that I think that we've missed that opportunity to demonstrate to the Ghanaian from the word go, like we did in the appointment and the election of the speaker, that we mean business. Indeed, we are up to the task and we are ready to do everything. When they voted against the budget of the MPP, we are happy. We knew that our parliamentary majority is not to 138, the maximum is 137. So when we have 134, with the explanation that 3 of our members were not in there, it sent a clear signal to the people that look, when you give us more numbers, we can really represent you. And for that matter, despite the fact that we didn't get what we want, but we've demonstrated to you that we are capable of standing up to a bad budget.
I don't think
hardship onto us.
And I think you'd agree with me that propaganda is not bad in our body politics. It's good, particularly when you play it to your advantage. And so, for the simple reason that General Mosquito was given the parliamentary appointment, does not mean that the MPP cannot also use that to their advantage. I'm sure you know that. But I mean, that's just by the way. Look, from all angles, social media, traditional media, tabloids, etc., the presumption, which is a reality, is that your National Executive Council was directly involved, for instance, in the pre-approval of Kandapa, Ambrose Derry, Dominic Nitivo. And so very little could have been done by your members of parliament, particularly when your leadership at the party level had indicated that for these people, they should be passed.
KOD.
Yeah.
With all due respect,
yeah,
that is not true.
That is absolutely correct.
I am a member of the National Executive Committee by virtue of the fact that I'm a regional secretary of NDC. In NDC, we have the Functional Executive Committee and the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee is the second highest organ.
Sorry, the Functional Executive. I was referring to the Functional Executive Committee.
Very well. It's the second highest organ.
I was referring to the Functional Executive.
So I'm coming there. Prior to the approval of Kandapa and the rest, there was a emergency National Executive Committee that we held. And when we held that emergency National Executive Committee, we came out with a statement. And that statement was clear and unambiguous that it pointed to the fact that they should reject them. That is the fact.
At NEC.
At NEC.
Which is secondary to FEC.
No. FEC is secondary to NEC.
FEC is secondary to NEC.
Apart from Congress, NEC is the highest decision body of the NDC. And
is it that you don't know, or you are saying I'm telling a lie, or maybe when the meeting was called, you were not invited?
I have participated in all NEC meetings. And I'm telling you as a matter of fact, the very day that we held that NEC meeting, that very day we issued a communique calling on our members of parliament to reject some sections of the... It has never happened in our vetting process, but yet we came out with that. And this was the time that our MPs approved. We're not saying that we should be stampeding the government activity at all times, because we love the country. But we love the country and we love our party. We love the country, and to the extent that some people's presence in those ministries is a detriment to the forward march of the country, we must get them off. They may be our family members, they may be our friends, but if we get them off, any other person who is succeeding in that position is conscious of the fact that if I do what my predecessor did, who knows what tomorrow will hold for me. But if somebody happens to do something which was good, which was bad, then he came back and you gave him the free will to go and continue what he is doing, it means that you are giving the green light to do worse, and this is not good enough.
I want us to stay with my question. I'll come to you very shortly, very, very shortly, because I think that the grassroots are peeved and they need answers as to why some ministers were passed. And it's very crucial that we are very truthful to them at this material moment, because there's nothing really anybody can do. The decision has been taken, the people have been accepted, and they are now ministers. And so I think this is a time for your party to be very open and truthful to their following, in order that at least they can have they can have some level of respite, knowing that the leadership knew exactly what they were. Because we're also reliably informed that some decisions were taken on the basis of some individual benefits that will be gained by some of your leaders within the party. And I'm sure you know that, for instance, we have Mr. Samuel Owusu who has an issue. You have Radio Go that is closed down. You have some financial institutions that have been closed down. And some concessions needed to be made in order for these people to be left off the hook. Are you going to sit here to tell me that that did not form part of the reasons why some of these ministers were passed?
I'm not aware of that, and I have no knowledge whatever you are saying. But even if there were some concessions to even be given, it is better the person who is pursuing you to demonstrate that good faith before. But they didn't do that. Why? For example, and then that of our deputy communications officer, they are still in court. They've not dropped their charges. Why? The financial institutions which have been closed and the radio stations which have been closed, they are still closed.
They are concessions.
You understand?
The concessionary arrangement.
No, sir.
When this happens, it's contingent on something. It's not just cast etched in stone.
It cannot be contingent on anything.
But A must happen before B happens.
So they should demonstrate good faith. Now, sir, you will be somebody, excuse my word, mad to trust the madman who killed your father to say that, oh, for you, he will spare you. He must demonstrate in the past that yes, he meant it and he can do it. But in any case, I don't subscribe to these type of concessions, because any type of that is criminal. If there is no basis for that, that is it. If there is a basis for that, continue with that. We believe that there's no justification whatsoever on the basis of this.
All right.
And for me, what has happened is a sad moment.
Mm-hmm.
And collectively, there should be a demonstration by our leadership in Parliament and our parliamentary caucus to the effect that the grassroots would again have the trust and confidence. Our trust and hopes have been raised so high, it has been shattered. It needs rebuilding, and it is they who can do it and no other person.
All right.
They must demonstrate to the Ghanaian.
All right.
And it is not a matter of just mere words.
All right.
There must be action that accompanies it.
All right.
And this is the only way that I can think that the confidence will be restored.
All right. Thank you very much.
NDC.
Let me come to Mr. Justice Seneko. Good morning to you again, sir. I'm sure you've listened to him closely. You've been following events which are still unfolding. Before you, in your submission, I just want you to take a quick bird's eye view on this subject matter, which involves the 2020 elections and whether or not the NDC lied to us. I know that it's not your house matter, but once it's in the opposition, it begs some level of expression. So, because they lied to the Ghanaian people about the performance of the MPP, and I'll explain why. They used PDS as a campaign tool. They used Ejapa as a campaign tool. They used KLN GVG as a campaign tool. And one would have thought that once an opportunity has been presented, this was the only opportunity presented to the NDC, both in Parliament at the national level, to buttress that which they claimed at the time was the problems that we were confronted with. But it stands to reason from the decisions that have been reached by the party and by the members of Parliament, in Parliament, that they actually indeed deceived the good people of Ghana, when they made us to believe that all the things that they were saying, at the time were indeed not true. I don't know if so. Yeah. Maybe in your submission you can respectfully add that to it.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Sadisu, and good morning to the good people and viewers of Pan-African television, and of course, season's greetings to them as well. I'll tackle your first question first.
All right, sir.
About whether the NDC deceived the good people of Ghana. I would say no. The NDC did not deceive the good people of Ghana. But the NDC has been opportunistic, or was opportunistic, in hitting at the truth, but inwardly, probably not caring or even acquiescing to what had happened. Because probably if they are in power, they will also do same. So it is not a deceit. It's not a deceit because it's a truth that PDS was a criminal enterprise engineered by the ruling sections of the ruling regime to use their positions to be able to transfer assets, Ghanaian assets, to their hands. And this is not the first time such a thing is happening. If you go to 1966, after the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, a lot of state assets were looted by so-called rich people and their descendants who are in Ghana now. Very soon we'll do a documentary on that. You come to realize plenty of the enterprises now, their genesis, whether they were state enterprises and how they became private enterprises. In the 80s, it was same. A lot of, under the PNDC, under the divestiture, a lot of state enterprises were taken over into private hands. So PDS was a sham. It was a criminal enterprise.
KLN GVG.
KLN GVG.
Kroll and Associates.
With Kroll and Associates. All were so opaque. And with Kroll and Associates, they went as far as going after the Auditor General for talking about it. So it was true. And if NDC raised it, it was legitimate. But the opportunism of the NDC and the essence of probably the ideology makes them also amenable to the ideology of the NPP. Indeed, it is interesting to hear the NDC people trying to isolate the parliamentary leadership and the NDC functional executive committee, and accusing them of being guilty of of betraying the trust the Ghanaian people had in them. Because not only the trust of NDC's ordinary supporters, but it was the trust of Ghanaians.
Yeah.
Why was it the trust of Ghanaians? Because Ghanaians saw the NDC as a victim of the elections, that they were cheated. I mean, you ask any ordinary Ghanaian, we all know that they were cheated. And we don't like people who cheat. We all saw the disgraceful conduct of the electoral commissioner by refusing to
the box.
go into the box to speak and give account for the work she has been placed there by the Ghanaian people to do, and for which we pay her for. We saw the disgraceful conduct of the Supreme Court. We ordinary people, yes, we are not lawyers, but we saw it. We saw the clear bias in which they exhibited and the hostility towards one party in the court process when they were supposed to be fair to both parties. We saw all that. We saw what the ruling regime did to Domlevo. First, called him a Togolese. Second, said that his birth date was fictitious. And when it was proven that he was not a Togolese, they didn't even come out to apologize. Which means what? Which means that we have a ruling regime which believes in impunity. They don't care a damn what anybody thinks. They don't respect anybody. They only think of their interest, right or wrong. So we're expecting at least a last stand from the NDC. We were expecting the NDC to behave like a David against a Goliath. I don't know whether you have lived in the bungalows. In the bungalows, when there's a bully, and one day somebody comes up and stands up against the bully, you see that all the boys there are supporting that person. And all the Ghanaians were behind the NDC. They failed to do anything meaningful against the budget. With the ministerial positions, ministerial approvals, it was simply shambolic. And even just imagine what they are doing to one of their own, one of their bright stars, who dares to stand up to power and speak truth to them, Ablakwa. You just listen to what some of their leaders are saying about Ablakwa. You just listen to what some of their leaders said about Sami Jenfi, which meant that the essence of the NDC itself is no different from the essence of the NPP. And that's why some of us call them the duopoly. Two sides of the same coin. They have the same ideology, the same mind to the governance of our society. Of course, you see one or two standouts in them. And then they betrayed, of course, their presidential candidate.
Yeah, I was actually going to come to that.
They betrayed him big time.
You know,
because how do you say that being a member of a parliamentary board is such a strategic position that you go and trade it to approve non-performing persons into ministerial positions, and then try to absolve that by saying that, the guy is no good. When he goes, he will make things worse. He will make things worse for what? He will dig the black hole of Calcutta for us to sink more? Is that what you are saying? Or you want a holding action so that probably if you come to power, you can be able to take us out of the hole faster? How is it possible that this whole financial architecture, which has been changed such that a very few number of people in this country now hold the financial architecture of our country, whether it's in insurance, whether it's in like in data bank and what they do in the banking sector and all those kind of things. It's a few people now and a small family who is now holding it. And we saw it. It wasn't only the NDC who saw it. All the Ghanaians saw it. And you were cowardly enough not to be able to stand up to it. Not to be able to say no. Yes, we know you were cheated and you had 137 votes. Let the 137 votes say no, and let them have their 138, and let it be on record that you were against it. But of course, you leave yourself up to a whole lot of speculation when quite a sizable number of your MPs vote for them. And you have some of the ministers, because they believe in street propaganda, go to make videos dancing, and when they are asked how they got there, they said that they saw them. So they fed into the speculation. And then now you are crying that they are doing negative propaganda. You don't do negative propaganda. You also do negative propaganda. Isn't propaganda part, that's information? Whether it's disinformation, negative information, positive information, isn't it part of the whole political system? It is. It is. And what you did, does it open up for us to speculate that indeed that is what happened? It does. Didn't you know that? Didn't you calculate that? Weren't you strategic enough to have calculated that? Just imagine when I heard that they said that Owusu Ampofo's case and Radio Gold. Yeah. It means they think of themselves and they don't think of the national interest.
That's precisely what I wanted him to address.
Because the national interest was that you have an illegitimate regime in power.
Yeah.
Why is it illegitimate? Because they stole the elections. And we all saw that they stole the elections. It is not only about killing people in order to get... it was not the killing of the people that made them steal the election. They actually captured a state institution called the Electoral Commission and used the Electoral Commission to steal it. And it was glaring. The Electoral Commission was in such confusion that it declared 7 times.
Yeah.
One election, they declared the result 7 times. We all realized over the past year or so the rush to increase the number of Supreme Court judges, that they were anticipating such a situation happening, that there could be a disputed election, and so they needed to pack their supporters there, and their supporters didn't disappoint them, and they were glaring. How many times did any of the Supreme Court judge ask a maneuver, or is it called a maneuver?
Yeah.
Or Akotampa questions? And how many times did they ask Chachu Chikata questions, breaking into his submissions at will in order to intimidate him or attempt to intimidate him, to push him off his rail, everything, in order for him to probably contradict himself? We saw it. It was on television. We are not conjecturing. It is an objective reality. It is something which is outside me. Whether I die today or not, it will be a television record which my children and my children's children will come and see. We saw all these things. And then when you have the opportunity to poke your fingers into their eyes, you let them go free. Why? Because you have won one small victory called the speaker. And now you will even see how the speaker is not doing anything in your favor. When the speaker has to postpone voting at the plenary, he either absents himself or he allows it. If it's your speaker, there should be coordination between the speaker and the parliamentary so-called minority leadership for them to know whether they have the people or not. Well, what has the speaker done that is extraordinary since he was appointed there? And even some of the ministers who you approved, it was it's so scandalous. Niti Wu, who attempted to subvert parliament by allowing troops to enter into the chamber of parliament. How? And up to now, we have not had even an inquiry. There has not been a demand for an inquiry into how soldiers with guns could enter into the chambers of parliament.
At that time, we had no president.
Yes. Even
there was no speaker, no president.
Even if it was not Niti Wu, those soldiers, why is it that now the parliament has not created and let their privileges committee call them so that the whole Ghanaians will understand and know who gave them the orders? Because if they did it on their own, then they broke military law. then they should be punished. Anybody who breaks the law should be punished. You understand? It has not been done. The guy who stole the ballot paper,
Carlos
Ahinkra. Unfortunately, he's a neighboring MP in Tema to my constituency. Well, nothing has been done to him. There has not been parliamentary inquiry. There has not been called to the... Does it mean that we can be stealing ballot papers? Does it mean that justice was given to that chap who stole the ballot box in Sene, who was jailed for 3 months? What kind of country is this? One law for the rich, one law for the poor. And even he was an MPP supporter.
Youth organizer.
An MPP youth organizer, I'm told. He went in for 3 months. Carlos Ahinkra is trotting about as a so-called honorable, an MP, taking part in voting for this useless budget and taking part in approving the Howard Kumsins and Oforiates and others. What kind of country? We have indeed become a banana republic because impunity reigns the realm. There's impunity all over. There's state capture by cabal. And that is not right. And the people of this country should stand up and make sure that this thing is changed.
Whether we like it or not, Mr. Eneku, the duopoly, unless something dramatic or drastic or the untold or the unforeseen happens, we're going to experience them for a while, right? That's the reality, the sad reality. Yeah. Now, this brings me to my next question, which is, how will all of these issues that we have discussed pan out in the next election? Because, and I deliberately asked you the question about whether the whole NDC campaign was deceptive. Because in my estimation, if it wasn't, why will Ken Oforiatta be passed? Because he was precisely the pivot around which all of these matters that you have eloquently and passionately spoke about revolved. So if you pass him, then you are telling the average Ghanaian that, well, you know, we just needed some political capital and we use that. But in reality, the guy is actually a good finance minister.
Is he?
Because there's no reason at all, if he isn't, why the vetting committee will unanimously approve.
Consensus.
Unanimous consensus is the same thing. Approve of him to become the finance minister. Are we together?
Yeah.
If you have, there's a if that word cry unanimity, right, in his approval, then it stands to reason that everything that you told us prior to the 2020 elections were all lies. I mean, so beyond that, you've explained that, but beyond that, what does it, all of these, what does it mean for 2024? For the NDC in the 2024 elections?
I think that we don't have to wait till 2024. I think that the mass of the people who are suffering economically at the hands of this disastrous budget, and the mass of the people who are suffering at the hands of an incompetent opposition should rise up within their various political parties and take over, because it was not the base of the NDC which approved the budget or which approved the ministers. What the base of the NDC can start doing now is to hold their leadership accountable for these kind of decisions. And they can start that revolt within the NDC to take over power from this moribund leadership that they have. And I even call upon the base of the NPP, those who have to go and buy cement for 50 cedis now, who have to pay all sorts of taxes, to also get up and take over the leadership of the MPP. I call upon the base of the CPP to do same in the CPP. You understand?
Okay.
That should be the way towards 2024.
All right. Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
You don't meet them and then they will come and give us some crocodile tears, apologies, and start pointing fingers at each other, you know, and those kind. No. No.
Right.
We should start right from within in order to be able to change them and their world outlook.
Thank you very much, Mr. Justice. And if you're still watching the newspaper review segment here on Pan-African television, like I told you, it's a holiday edition, so we are firing from all angles whenever we deem it to be relevant. Now, I've seen some messages on Facebook, and people are saying, oh, it has already happened, it's okay, you know, other things are happening, so we shouldn't be talking about it, etc. And if you recall, in my preamble, I stated that whether we like it or not, we are going to be experiencing the duopoly for a while. So it is important that as a viable opposition, you demonstrate as such when you are in opposition, so that we can have that confidence in you, you know, that given the opportunity, you will be able to excel beyond our imagination. And so, please, for those of you who are questioning why we are discussing this issue, please, you should understand that it's all for and in the interest of our dear nation, Ghana. Now, let's move beyond the NDC and come to discuss some very pertinent topics, which topics have created a lot of disaffection for the MPP in the first quarter of their governance in 2021. The current state of our economy. The current state of our economy, I'm putting it bluntly, Mr. Eneku, and I'm starting with you with the greatest respect. The current state of our economy, and that is the topic that I want us to talk about. Take out, so we're looking at the finances in respect of the economy. Take out Danso, take out the other ones. We'll come to that. We have a specific topic for that. But the current state of our economy, let's discuss that.
Yeah, well, our economy has not been the best of shapes for the past 30 years or so because of the neoliberal market that we have. You see, we laid off hundreds of thousands of people from jobs. So even the revenue which you could collect as taxes from these kind of people went down. And it led us to be dependent on borrowing and for outside budgetary support. We reduced our industrial base so much so that we had to import in order to make up for the products which were manufactured in this country, which meant what? Which means the outlay of foreign exchange or the outflow of foreign exchange from just a small sector, the cocoa sector, and a few taxes from the commodities, etc., was what we were using, plus borrowings, to be able to supply the foreign exchange for importers to import everything, including yoi. You know yoi? Yes, including yoi into our country, and all types of basic food which are traditional to our country, including even tomatoes. You know that once upon a time we had 2 tomatoes factories in Ghana.
Yeah.
In the early 60s, in Wenchi and in Paolugu, producing canned tomatoes from the harvest of the fresh tomatoes which we were overproducing in Akomadan and elsewhere. But now we import a lot of tomatoes and onions from Burkina Faso. Of course, intra-African trade is good, but that's whether we export anything to them anyway, apart from importing these kind of vegetables, fruits from them. We have a situation where, apart from the privatization, the over-importation of almost everything into our economy, we are not investing in the productive forces of our economy. Absolutely no production is going up, but we want to increase taxation. we have a dual economy of a formal economy, a small formal economy, and a huge informal economy. We don't invest in the informal economy. We don't invest in infrastructure which would be the foundation for the informal economy to spring up. You understand? But so we are looking for ways and means to go and tax them. And because we have underinvested in statistics and the collection of information, etc., economic information, etc., etc., we don't know even where they are for us to be able to go and tax them. We have a multiplicity of databases for registering almost everything on earth in this country, whether it is for voting, whether it's for NHIS, whether it's for marriages, whether, instead of bringing it all together so that we'll be able to know that Kwesi has been given birth to today. So we should plan for Kwesi from birth right up to his death, where he will even be buried. Go and look at the state of our cemeteries, apart from Gethsemane. You understand? Which means what? Which means a central element of economics is planning. And we are afraid of it. And so we go in for budget, which is short-term financial statement for 1 year. We hardly think beyond 1 year. No, we hardly think into even the medium term. We have a whole lot of unfinished projects. We don't continue it to its completion and finishing. Then we promise new projects like 88 hospitals, which we are unable to start. And then after promising 88 hospitals, now we come and promise another set of hospitals again in Sona. It's crazy. That's not how to run an economy. You don't even run a household economy, your household budget. You don't run it like that. You don't run it like that. We are happy that the ratio has been great. So we are going to borrow $5 billion. We are going to use about 3.6 billion of it to go and pay for interest. Not even the principal, just the interest. You have 90% of your revenues being used to pay for interest, to pay for compensation. How much is left for you to invest in infrastructure? How much then it will be left for you to invest in production? Yes, they say COVID. Yes, COVID has come. COVID has ravaged our country. Many people have died. Many people had it. Productivity went down. Did we invest in reaction to that adversity? You know, when a problem comes, you try to solve the problem. And one way of solving the problem is to look for those opportunities in order to be able to supply the things which are needed to solve the problem. Did we start increasing the production of hospital beds? Did we start producing these things, these nose masks? I heard that in KNUST or in Kumasi somewhere, somebody was doing this machine which they use in the ICU. Did we continue with that research and invest in it? We had to share food, of course, which was not properly shared. Did we invest in agriculture in order to be able to increase agricultural production? We are the agriculture sector. They only come and give us flowery words from a minister who insists on his classmate being employed illegally, and which is approved by my friends from the NDC. After they had exposed it, gallantly exposed it, then in a wimpy manner, they go and approve of him. So, as for our economy, structurally, it is useless. And they are not even running it properly. And they, you see, the deception in the figures they give us, for example, the GDP. Our GDP has become big and everything. How much do Ghanaians own the GDP? Do we ask that question? The inflows which come out of the GDP, that's the profits and revenues which come out of the GDP, how much is retained in Ghana? Because what makes up the GDP? It's all economic activities which take part in this country. Who owns the bulk of the economic activities which take place in Ghana? It is the Newmonts, the Ashanti Gold, the Exxon Mobils, the Galamsey Chinese, Galamsey at the base, and all these things. So whatever few taxes that we get, because we don't get much taxes anyway or revenue from them, how much fuel we get, revenue we get from them, it is just a small microcosm of what they take out and which they don't live in this country for us to be able to use to pay for investment. Tax holidays. Who enjoys tax holidays? Who enjoys tax exemptions?
Big multinationals.
What are tax exemptions on? Luxury items, importation of luxury cars and all those kind of things. That's what tax exemptions are for. And who you know? Political contracts. When the person can't do the contract. So the person comes to take the contract and farms it to other contractors by putting something on top, making the contract very expensive or ensuring that the output, the goods and services which are produced as a result of the contract are shoddy. You have a whole procurement chap having a company also farming out, being a middleman for procurement. And the person is walking around. And it's okay. Because the mantra is that, oh, all Ghanaians are corrupt. All Ghanaians should solve the problem. Then why did we vote people to go and lead us? To do what? To just go and enjoy? They were voted in order to go and solve problems. And they must be seen to be solving problems. They must not be seen to be adding to our problems. And if they are adding to our problems, we should bring them down. And the way we can bring them down is to make sure that the supporters and members of their political parties who are also suffering like other Ghanaians wake up and tell truth to power. Tell them that no, you guys, you can't do what you are doing. You are ordinary mortals like us. It is high time. That's why the budget is a useless budget. Taxes on. Look at the garbage. You look at the garbage. The bulk or percentage, a huge percentage of our garbage is made of food waste, especially from the markets. What have we done in order to convert this food waste into animal feed? And the rotten tomatoes, the rotten onions, the rotten cassava. Actually, you see, where I attended school, university, when your bread gets stale, you are not supposed to throw it into the garbage bin. You'll be punished if you throw it into the garbage bin. You are supposed to place it on a specially designated bin, and it's going to be used to feed pigs and other kind of things. A huge percentage of our garbage is made up of food waste, from post-harvest losses, from rotten, poor storage in the markets and everything. And we just throw it and dump it into the lagoon in order to spoil the mpatswa, the fish in the lagoon, which we patronize, in order to push rubber bags and other things into the sea and destroy the livelihood of the fishermen who fish near the coast. You know, they fish near the coast, inshore fishing, and then there's deep sea fishing. Now they can't. They have to go deep sea, and their canoes are not big enough to go deep sea. And we are giving fishing licenses to foreigners, so they are trawling all the fish from the seabed and taking it away. They are not bringing it here, and we are importing fish. What kind of country is this?
What kind of country is this, Mr. Eneku Quizzes? Now, let me read a few messages and then we'll continue with the conversation. This one sent it to my Twitter handle. It says, good morning to you, Kwame. I like the analysis being made by Mr. Justice Eneku. I have lost a lot of opportunities because I'm tagged as an NDC member. And for some of the NDC MPs to stab us in the back, we say, ayo. This one was sent to me on Twitter. So if you're watching, you can also send me your message on Twitter and then I'll read it. But let me go on Facebook and read a few messages from there as well. Now, this one on Facebook. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, right. So it says what? There's something we all have to understand, because I don't really know what message NDC will use for their campaign. Ibrahim Washara says every Twitter will lose in 2024. Abdul Rashid Nuhu says KOD, NDC or Ghana is not worthy to die for. It's not worth dying for. People died trying to protect the ballot box, and yet some unscrupulous NDC MPs approved their killers to be ministers again. CPP must take measures to capture the moment of betrayal and comeback. Make your membership registration electronic for we want to join. Well, you remember, if you are watching this morning, somebody has given you an idea. Ibrahim Washara says Ghana is in the hands of lies. Vincent Kingsford Bedu says good morning to you, KOD, and your panelists. Your people are doing a great job for motherland. You people are doing a great job for motherland. But KOD, if there's some people Ghanaians should fear, is no more Akufo-Addo and his evil government, but rather some current NDC MPs. Some of them are more evil than Satan himself. And the eligible voters are watching. I'm watching live from Bremen, I beg your pardon, in Germany. Thank you very much, Vincent, for your message this morning. Ibrahim Washara says, in the early 60s, we had 2 tomato factories in Ghana. That's the vision and wisdom of Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This one says from Don Political Power. It says, good morning to KOD and your panelists. I think it's high time the leadership of the NDC caucus in Parliament, together with the NDC MPs, wise up and to not succumb to this so-called consensus. The MPP is pretending to engage them. Did they call for consensus building when they had 169 seats against 106 in the 7th Parliament? They should be smart to stop the MPP from deceiving them with the consensus building. And these are some of the messages that I have on Facebook. If you can share with me your thoughts, I'll be more than willing to read them. Let me see one that I got from Musa Abatwa in Kumasi. It says, good morning to KOD. I share your sentiment on the approval of ministers, especially how Owusu, Owusu, Nito, Kandapa, Ambrose Derry, and Kenofurata. The grassroots are peeved. If minority takes cognizance of the fact that a grief moment of the family of 9 NDC supporters who lost their lives as a result of defending the party, they wouldn't have approved these ministers. From now onwards, it will be very difficult for anybody to risk his or her life defending the party going into the 2024 elections. And this is precisely the sentiment I was trying to put across. I mean, it's a bigger issue. Abanga Isifu from Boko. If NDC removes Harun Idrisu, they should forget 2024 politics in the north. They are not fair to the Northern brothers. See the suspended Atubiga. I don't understand you, Master. So what? Because he's from the north, if he does something which the party thinks is not right, they can't take him out. Good morning to you, KOD. I don't want NDC to come to power in 2024, because if they come to power, they will all be blaming the MPP for the problem in the country, and they will not find a solution. Just the same way the MPP did when they came to power, they kept on blaming John Mahama for every problem. To avoid this kind of conundrum, we should vote for a new political party or to retain MPP in power. Good morning to you, KOD. I don't want NDC to come to... Okay, I think I've read this one already. Let me see. Okay, Kwame. Ghana was saved by COVID money, because COVID money was used to offset part of our debt last year. The country is seriously broke. It is a fact. Stephen from Insuta Buem sent in this one. Punishment galore at the polls for NDC MPs come 2024 general elections. If Osei Ketia is saying that it was the devotion of the party to allow Ken Oforiatta to go through, then I have no doubt most of them, including the chairman, voted for Nana and turned around to fool us. As for me, Okujeto is our hero. Achu from Japan. I think this is a very interesting analysis there. What the minority have done in Parliament has shown that BNC had taken place. They are taking their cake and waiting to have their results come 2024 parliamentary elections. Augustine sent in this one. Good morning to KOD. The earlier NDC supporters come to terms to the fact that their MPs do not have numerical strength to stand the work of a Kufuor-led government. The better. Nanado is the most visionary president so far in the history of Ghana. The members of parliament of NDC should be very, very careful not to destroy the party. What is happening within members is dangerous, and the grassroots are not happy. NPP can capitalize on that and destroy the party. Please, the high hierarchy should sit up and stop it. From James K. Sarba. Pan-African TV, the contributions of Kwesi Pratt and especially Kojo Chumbua for Alaji and Alaji last Saturday were most harmful to the NDC Camp 2024. They were so indiscreet. Surely, there is a serious problem we must solve, but should we handle it like Chumbua did on Saturday? They will handle deadly weapons to the NPP. Circumspection is key. I hope today's discussion will not continue to press the self-destruct button.
Well, I'm not NDC.
Interesting. Wow, this is a fantastic discussion. This is live from Uti region in Kwanta, and Mohammed Fatal is my name. NDC leadership in parliament is a disgrace. I can't imagine them supporting. I can't imagine them supporting the NPP to destroy. I can imagine, you mean, them supporting the NPP to destroy Ghana. We need men of principle to represent NDC. Kweku from La Paz. The conduct of NDC leadership in parliament is nothing but a complete disregard for the feelings of people who put them there. Some of them campaigned on their achievements as members of parliament and sought to be retained. So the re-election of these MPs signified that their electorate endorsed their performance. So the approval of the ministers such as Defense, Finance, Agric, Information, Fisheries, etc. is a clear endorsement that they did well and deserve another opportunity. They have no moral right to criticize them when they mess up. Wumbei D. Kamal from Sagnarugu constituency. Hello, good morning to you, Kwame. The two guys who committed that crime, killing the 10-year, yeah, we're going to be talking about that, please. Abdul Basit Zongo, Pioneer, Kumasi. Fellow Ghanaians, the Australian ambassador has no right to insult or disrespect our parliament or culture or anybody in Ghana. Okay, you're talking about LGBTQ. We have not discussed that this morning. Abanga Isifu from Boko says, it's undermining Haruna. His time will come. Oh, you mean a black white? Hey, why are you saying a black white is undermining what's his name, Haruna? Oh, don't say that. Peter Atule Keodi, when a fruit fails to fall into the hands of good people, it will surely be eaten by birds. That is MPP for you. I'll read a lot more messages as and when I get them. But Mr. Eneku, sorry, be aware, but let me hear from you on this subject matter.
Yes, on the issue of our economy, one must agree that this is a terrible time for us. If our economy was anything bad in the past, this one is worse. To have this type of pandemic, whereby the refrain and the expression was that they are to save lives and livelihoods. But ironically, they are visiting hardship on the ordinary Ghanaian. They are packing a lot of their taxes on indirect taxes. And by the indirect taxes, it means that no one is exempt. And it will be felt by all. The only difference is that the poor, who has nothing, if you take a pesewa from him, it means a lot than the pesewa taken from somebody who is rich. So the impact of it will be felt by we, the ordinary Ghanaians, and the very vulnerable in society. And you know the worst of it, they are asking us to pay for their inefficiencies and their wanton dissipation of the resources of the country called Ghana. Why did anybody put a gun on the head of Nana Akufo-Addo, the president, to say he's going to provide free water, which free water never got to 30% of the total population of Ghana? Which free water, when the taps were even running on regular basis, by virtue of his pronouncement of free water, then they started rationing it very erratic, and many people did not even get. Did anybody put a gun on President Akufo-Addo to say that indeed they should take off the electricity bills, and which has now been visited on us by virtue of Danso? And they did that not because they love the people of Ghana, not because we were in a pandemic, but they did that for their short-term political gain, to use it for the purpose of campaigning and to pretend that they care. Otherwise, the pandemic is even worse now than it was before. The numbers are huge than it was before. So if indeed you care for the people, it means that we have not returned to any normal situation, and this is even the time you should be giving more cushioning, because the devastation is even huge now.
Right.
Why are you coming back to say that by virtue of the fact that you gave those type of reliefs, which reliefs we even suspect, you are coming to tax the people the more, to pick that from the people? The worst of it is the so-called waste boiler tax. And when they even try to explain what the boiler tax will do, it means that it is not your household waste that they will come and pick, that they will pay you for. It is nothing but a very convenient way of creating money and sharing it at the top. Why? How many waste collection agencies are across the country? And what is the efficiency when people are paying for the collection of their waste on daily basis? People are paying, and you're going to take that boiler tax, and that you're not going to deal with the waste collections at people's homes, but that there is what kind of hazardous disposal or infectious waste that has been generated. Who told that the hospitals have not been handling their infectious waste for all this while? This is nothing but a convenient way of making money from the ordinary Ghanaian. And you realize that this was the government which came on the altar of the fact that they are going to take the economy from taxation to production. Master, what have they done? At the vetting of the Minister for Trade, listen to him very well. Not up to 10 companies have been set up by them under their so-called one district, one factory. None. And even the capacity of the so-called companies that they have set up, they cannot mention. If you push them, they will only mention that of the Ecofi fruit factory, and then an alcoholic beverage company which has started. That is the only thing that they can mention. I, coming from the north and knowing very well that there were some existing companies assembling various parts of tricycles, they have indicated in their various releases that it's one of the companies that they have set up. Nothing but untruth and lies. MK, they have gone to take up G processing factory in Tamale, which was processing this issue of guinea fowls. And what do? They will buy the guinea fowls from the peasant guinea fowl rearers and try to defeather them, pack them in a fridge, but passing them in such a convenient way that when you are going, you can easily pick it along. That is all what they are doing. But go and read the statistics of what they have put in there. And this company has been in existence over 10 years.
Wow.
But they've gone to put it there. That is one of their factories. So the MPP government, we are faced with two types of pandemics. that of the COVID and the MPP administration. The worst of it all is that they are not willing to tell the people the truth. They will look straight into your eyes and tell that they are producing what is non-existent. It was demonstrated by even the Agric minister as one of their flagship projects. They said planting for food and jobs. When he was put on the test, how many extension officers did you say you have employed? How many are in the country? He could not give. The best is to throw tantrums. And at the time that they have said that, oh, we have attained full sustainability, tomato farmers were up in arms. And they were not tomato farmers, but they were tomato transporters. And why were they up in arms? That things have become so difficult that they can't go to Burkina Faso and transport. When our president is telling us that now we are no more transporting, importing tomato, the people who import tells you that indeed they still go to Burkina Faso and import the tomato. This is the reality. So, look, the situation has become so worse that even indigenous businesses are targeted for destruction by this current administration.
Indigenous businesses?
Indigenous businesses are targeted.
Which ones are those?
A typical example is Ibrahim Mahama. Why should you, as a country, say that you are taking a concession in the hands of an indigenous Ghanaian business and giving it to a Chinese administration? Chinese government.
You mean the bauxite there?
The bauxite. Why? And the worst of it all is that, look, there are several established mining companies still operating who have not got parliamentary approval for their licenses. So why Ibrahim was different? Why? At the time that Unibank was closed, Unibank was the single largest indigenous bank. And we are being told that the whole financial sector, we needed 9 billion to be able to save the financial sector. And the people of Ghana have been made to cough in excess of 21 billion, and we don't still know to what extent we will still pay for the financial sector that they have come to create, the mess.
Yeah.
Does it make rational sense that you need 9 billion to save somebody from dying? Then you say that, oh, I will be the executioner. Let me kill the person and use 21 billion to struggle to bury the person. This is exactly what we are demonstrating. And when you push them, the rest of it all, they begin to deal with percentages. And that is the biggest insult.
Their percentage of borrowing is lower than yours.
That is the biggest insult onto the people. To the people. Why? Look, if you have 10 cities and you borrow additional 10 cities, that's 100%. Isn't it? But somebody who has got 10,000 and he has borrowed 19,000, it's not 100%. But is 9,000 and 10 cities the same?
No.
The worst of it, you see, when you want to compare, and that is what we have not been fair to the people of Ghana. Most of them will compare the GDP. You see, GDP may be a good standard for measuring the economic life of the people who are developed. Why? Because the businesses and the productive activities are largely owned by their own nationals. So when you use GDP as an adequate measure of the rate of your productive activity, you may be right. But when you transport it to a developing country like Ghana, whereby over 80 to 90% of the major economic activity which is calculated and forms part of our GDP is still owned by Ghanaians. When it is actually compounded by virtue of the fact that we have got foreign retention agreements, whereby the revenue that they even generate, they are only revenue on paper, they are not in our banks, and we cannot have access to it because they are sitting somewhere outside your jurisdiction. And you use it as a measure of your economic performance, then you must be kidding. And that is exactly what we are doing. Like Mr. Hinaku indicated, tell me, which sector is the major contributor to our GDP? Now, the agri sector is no more. It's the service sector. Who are the champions in the service sector? And when I say the service sector, it means the telecom companies. Tell me, what is the percentage of Ghanaian shareholding in any of the telecom companies? Is it MTN? Is it Tigo? Is it Airtel?
Vodafone, no.
Vodafone? What is the percentage of our ownership in that? So you see the deceit. When they make $1 billion profit, that $1 billion profit, we say, oh, this $1 billion profit was made in Ghana, but it belongs to somebody sitting in South Africa.
Then we add it to our GDP.
Then you add it to your GDP and think that you are better off.
Sad, eh?
But if it was made and that billion belongs to a Ghanaian, because the Ghanaian is a citizen within this country, then we can claim ownership of that. And we can be proud of that situation. When a mining company, Newmont, Anglo Gold, name them, they make the returns and they make the huge gains. We add it. Why? When the owners are sitting somewhere outside our shores, and ask them when they like, they will go and then retrieve it. And that explains the reason why we are always, all the time, on the borrowing spree. That explains the reason why that indeed the appetite for borrowing has even gone up. And the worst type of borrowing is done by this current finance minister and this other current administration.
Which was approved by your people.
The worst.
I mean, who was approved by your people?
The worst. Because when you go and
Approved by your people.
when you go and borrow at a 0 coupon rate, you know what you have done, Cody?
Yes, my boss.
You go and borrow 5 billion
Yeah.
at a 0 coupon rate. What you have indicated, and by 0 coupon rating means that I'm not going to be paying the interest every year. You compound and accumulate the interest and the principal that I have borrowed, so that on the 5th year, on the day of maturity, I will package everything and hand it over to you. Meanwhile, your own internal revenue, your domestic revenue that you are generating, is less than the 5 billion that you are taking. Are you telling me that you are going to take the money and then misuse it today, and generations to come, when you are no more in government and the government will struggle? This is what we are doing. And the most unfortunate part is what you are actually putting to me, because this will keep on with this car as a party by virtue of the fact that we did not demonstrate our anger enough.
I'm telling you, you will. For 4 years, you can't get this right. What are you going to say?
But I can tell you that there is solace, because even when a majority of the ministers were approved, there was a substantial number of even MPs who voted against them. This in itself can be a solace. It can be a solace by virtue of the fact that, look, there has been massive revulsion across the country.
Yes.
And our MPs are also listening.
Right.
The leadership of our party and then that of the leadership of parliament, they've also listened. They've made public utterances that, look, they are willing to chart a different path.
They already
So this is what
you know I'm
exactly
smiling and laughing so loudly.
that I am proud of.
Because all of this is that you are saying, all of these complaints and all of these, what's the word? Come to me. I mean, for lack of better expression, all of this anger that you're expressing in your submission, pales into irrelevance because the very person who superintends over these things that you are talking about has been dutifully, nicely, unanimously, consensually approved by a party.
Don't overhype this. You see, there are two things.
Borrowings and percentages.
There are two things.
Let me remind you something. Somebody, hold on. Your party member says, and he knows you because he added honorable to your name, because I only call you Biawerebe. Says, Honorable Biawerebe, you are actually provoking some of us with your presentations. NBC leadership have compromised their credibility before all. It's a shame.
But Kwame, you know, somebody was saying that it was passed and that we shouldn't
Yeah. Somebody says, oh, we have Danso to talk about, so let's not talk about
that. Kwesi and
Chumbuafo fired.
You see, the principles of criticism and self-criticism is important for any institution. That's why in our local Akan language we say "Nia ocha sano." So somebody behind should be able to see
guide you.
The path is crooked, and so you should straighten up. So we are doing NDC, we are doing our country, we are doing even NPP a favor.
Yes.
That we must see. We are seeing the other side.
To that.
You see, in dialectics, there are many sides to a situation.
Yeah.
And we are seeing the other side, which they are probably not.
Our leadership is doing that. They have heard our cry, and then they will do what is needed.
That is the deception. And I don't want you people to continue on this trajectory. Because do you recall that when Howard Kumsin and the others were passed, in this very studio, some of them came to beg. I'm telling you, they came to beg, and then they went back and
we thought that the last stand was going to be Ken.
He was the biggest fish.
Yeah, so you people left him off the hook. NDC as a party should be condemned, and not the leadership of minority in parliament. We, together with the party, criticize the minority leadership for not adhering to the advice to reject the minister's designate. Now, the party had advised the leadership to approve the finance minister. Why? I think based on this, we lack the moral right to blame the minority leadership in parliament. Ghana is truly a banana republic. None of our institutions are working. Kweku sends in this one. Good morning to you, Kwame. Well, this is an essay. Good morning to you, Kwame, and your pundits. Kwame, the more we still hear